yourself so we know who you are.
Nancy Bonacera.
Carl Foss.
Sayed Ghani.
Nick Priest.
PJ Addison Reed. Okay, let's open the meeting. And the first item on the agenda is to talk about the August 24th minutes. Carl?
So I guess my question is, are Nancy and Syed gonna have to abstain because they weren't there? Or does that, I guess it's a personal choice, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is.
that's why I didn't comment, because I couldn't speak to what happened in that meeting.
Okay, but even if we just have three of us vote, it should be fine. Did anyone see any additions or changes that needed to be made?
No, I did not.
I move that we approve the minutes from August 24th, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor? By name, please.
Carl, I vote yes.
Nick Priest, yes.
PJ, yes. Thank you. Let's look at the second item, which is the Select Board and the DEI Committee. We're confirming the date, which is the 19th of September from 5 until 6:30. We want to talk about the program, and you have a separate document on that. It's a one-page document, and I will just go through it. And if there are comments that you would like to suggest that we talk about, then that would be okay on my part. We call. Go ahead.
DJ, just to interject, Nick, do you know if that meeting has to be recorded or public, or will it be offline? That was my question.
So I think because I'll have to double check, because there's going to be quorum of both groups. So I have to imagine that it has to be posted. But because it's like a working session, it's not like an official meeting. I don't know what the guidelines are around that. So I think like I'll confirm with Amy as to like what the correct protocol is for that.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious since it's more of a workshop rather than a formal meeting, so I didn't know, because yeah, what you said, there's quorum, so I wasn't sure if it still applied.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so that was my question.
it would make sense, obviously, depending on what the local laws are or the state laws are. It would make sense for it to be not an open meeting to foster open dialogue in that setting, right? Because if there are a lot more participants there who necessarily may not know all of the background information and so on and so forth, it could be misconstrued, right? So and I don't know if this helps or not, but I just noticed that my son goes to Newton for school, and right now they actually have a school committee meeting, and part of that meeting is open just to the committee members, to certain members, because they have, I guess, a collective bargaining discussion or something that they have to take, and they have to conduct with the Teachers Association. So that part is closed off to the public, and then once that discussion is over, it'll then open up to everybody.
Yep. Yeah. So that's executive session, and I think that can only be used in certain cases, such as like collective bargaining or acquisitions or yeah, basically things that would have a detrimental effect to discuss. I don't know if this conversation would fall under that, but yeah, those are good points, Said. I'll bring that up to Amy when I talk to her.
Sure. Thanks for bringing it up, Nancy. That's a good point.
Sure, thanks.
I had the same point, but I wanted to look at the presentation first. Since it's been opened in this morning's buzz message to everyone that subscribes or gets it delivered, Nikki mentioned that it would be open for people to participate. And I question that. So that's why I had it on the list just as Nancy did. This is, at least from my perspective, it's an executive session and it's not one where everyone attends the process that we're engaged in. The opportunity is for us to discuss it with the select board and this committee. And then based on our review and discussion of it, then we decide whether we will include other organizations that can attend a presentation for their group as well. So we're on the right topic. And I think
Yeah.
we're all in agreement that this should be between the select board, DEI committee, and I also offered the invitation to Paul and Joanne to attend with us.
Right. And so if Amy says that we have to post it publicly because there's a quorum, and even though it's a workshop, we're still discussing matters that are pertinent to having it in a public setting, then there's nothing saying that we have to include the public in the conversation. But people would be invited, not invited, like people would have the right to come and sit and listen to the conversation. But again, before we spin our wheels on this, we'll get final say from Amy and make sure that we're on the right track from an OML standpoint, and I'll let everybody know.
Okay, and I'm just looking at the Buzz BJ because you brought it up. I don't think it says that it's necessarily public, but I can see why you thought maybe it sounds that way. Because she's just talking about tonight's meeting, which anyone can join, and that we
I
are
thought she
going to
was
talk
talking
about.
about the 19th and everybody could join that. That's what I thought she was referencing.
Oh no, I think the join online was just specifically
Okay.
for tonight, and then that we would have some discussion about this. Just to clarify, she's my dear friend, so I just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
Oops, sorry about the
So
dog.
we'll wait to hear from Amy on what our next step is. I'd like to go over the one page and just review and see if there are any questions that you have. The overview is to look at what possibly could be 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years to look at the program. For this September, which is scheduled for the 19th, there's 90 minutes that we've set aside. And there we're going to look at how you think, why you think, and what activities in which we engage. And that's covered in that 90 minutes. So we'll look at the process, which is philosophy, core values, mission, goals, decisions, actions, results, and self-appraisal. And the legal foundation for the definitions, as well as the engagement with the Burlington organizations and their leadership. So that's the first meeting. The second one, you'll note that I put 120 minutes because it looks at the length of time, and we may present the one page and say, instead of doing it in just a second meeting, we might add a third and fourth meeting. Divide what we have under October, and that's the how with the strategy, decisions, actions, and calendar dates. And then the what, the application and how it's applied. And we go through all of the activities that are engaged. And the last one is booked for April, and that's after we get through the strategy over the fall and well into winter to begin to look at the results and to record those and share them with the select board, seeing what we've already covered. So any thoughts or questions you might have would be helpful.
First off, apologies. Can you guys hear that music?
We hear a child screaming a little bit, happy.
That's part of the course. I can also hear music, so I want to make sure that I'm not like blaring the radio as
No, it's
as my
okay.
kids have apparently a dance party. So a couple questions. I want to focus on the meeting for the 19th. So obviously, I think we're all familiar with what the breakdown of the process is from philosophy through self appraisals, and
Yes.
I have a decent handle of that. when we say legal foundation definitions, are we talking about the definitions of that we've discussed prior? Are there what's the I'm only asking because when I hear legal,
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the federal and state legislation, why we identify those categories. And it's already been included in other things that we've given to the select board, but they've not made the decision that they want to follow legally what we need to do. When we collect the data is what we're talking about.
okay. And then engagement with Burlington organization is a review of everything that we've done thus far with the outreach.
What I will share with you is that Nancy and I did meet with Barbara, who met with us on the planning board. And during that conversation, as I mentioned in our last meeting, that she wanted to join select board and DEI and C. And I discouraged that because each organization that reports to the select board, their group must agree on what that group is going to look at and begin to measure. So one of the things that has happened is that Barbara suggested that Nancy and I meet with her, and we've scheduled the 15th of September to provide her with the one page like you have in front of you. There'll be some minor changes to that, but she would then review it with us, and then they have a retreat that is planned for the 29th of September, and she would like to present, just as you have, the one page and of course the cover sheet. I've given you my background on the one you have, but Nancy and I have put one together so that on the cover sheet we list Nancy and me with the sheet, the second sheet that you already have. And that would be presented to that committee to determine whether we would have a meeting with them, just as we are with the select board and DEI and C. So we're mirroring what we do with us to those other organizations who want to participate in the process. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
I should also mention that Carl and I met with Catherine Bond, and we talked about the mission statement with her, and she suggested to Carl that we might talk about working with DEI and C again. And we didn't schedule anything, but at least they had that open conversation. So there may be some other leaders that want to engage with us, and we're willing to do that. Your thoughts, Carl?
The way that I thought that we left it in the summertime was that the school committee has some planned sessions for ourselves. We haven't selected any dates yet, but at some point in the early fall, similar to what we did last spring, I think it was 15 months or so ago now, where we came up with that equity statement that we read at every meeting now. But I think that once those sessions are done, then maybe we can schedule something else again with Catherine or even the full committee. I'm not sure what everyone's availability is going to be or what the product is after we have these sessions. They're usually facilitated. Last year we had with Khalees Warnham, if you know of her work. But I think that the school committee would be very open to a similar working session at some point. I just don't know when.
Understood. Other thoughts?
BJ, do we need any kind of nod from the select board when as we meet with these other groups for these more advanced meetings? just thinking of protocol, I guess.
That's-
Or go ahead.
I was going to say, that sounds like it's a question for Nick.
So I guess I would say that given this committee's charge to look at things that are D&I related, that trying to coordinate with other boards and committees is within the purview. Um, to either understand where they are or they aren't, as it relates to, keeping the door open to collaboration. Um, I think that if this committee were to try and, well, I don't know. I feel like the area becomes more gray when, you know what? I don't know. And I don't want to speak out of turn. But I mean, I think that what we're currently doing is fine.
Yeah, just trying to cover our bases, I guess, given it's happened in the, towards the beginning, that's all. So thinking from that risk angle.
Each of the committees is working on a mission statement at this point. We've only had the planning board say, come work with us. And we don't know that that's going to happen, but at least we have the 2 pages that we would provide, and then they can make a decision afterwards.
And those are the 2 pages that the select board will be agreeing on before that.
Yes, we're
Right.
meeting with the select board on the 19th. And we'll talk about this with Barbara on the 15th. However, she would present it to the planning board on the 29th. So it's after the 19th when we meet with the select board.
Okay.
It's getting them to agree that this is a strategy that we can move forward if requested to do so.
Yeah, we don't have a meeting like this scheduled with the planning board yet. It's for Barbara to put to the planning board a similar proposal as what we're doing with the select board. They'll
Exactly.
do it. Yeah.
We're in the same path, but the select board has to be first because every one of those committees reports to the select board. Makes sense, Nick?
Well, in the case of the planning board doesn't report to the select board.
I thought they did.
No.
On our list.
The list that of boards and committees that you've been talking to has been some like, well, no. If there's a board or committee, then that department reports to that board or committee. Which is why I think from a relationship and coordination standpoint, I think that initiating the conversation, understanding what everyone else is up to as well is good. That falls under the purview of what we're trying to do. And I even think that sharing with people documents that the select board has approved, / accepted, I think is also perfectly fine, because we're trying to work together with other boards and committees. It just has to run through their boards and committees.
We got the list that has the board commission assignments are Board of Assessors, Board of Health, Recreation Commission, School Committee, Town Clerk, Planning Board Chair, and the Library Trustee Chair. So those are the 7. And they're also the ones that are part of the Burlington Annual Report, correct? They
Yes.
have a section that they're printing up what they're doing for their activities for the year. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? Next on the list then is an update, and that is with the executives. Nancy, I forgot to send you the name of the man who's in charge of health. And that's Ed Weiner.
Weiner.
We were going to meet with him, and I haven't reached out.
Okay, so yeah, Board of Health is, I think, the last group we haven't talked to.
Okay. All right.
Do you want me to do that or?
I'll reach out to him
Okay.
tomorrow. I don't want to lose track of who I'm supposed to follow up with. Any other thoughts from this committee?
I had a thought, and maybe it's too early to talk about this, but we're always, it's always there in the back, our timeline with being an ad hoc committee with a year. I guess my question is for Nick, when would that be evaluated? I guess November or sooner?
Sorry, Nancy, I was reading something. Would you mind repeating that?
Oh, I was just saying, when do we think we will know if we'll last more than a year is basically the question.
Oh, great question. I don't know. So I will
Just
put
in
them
the
on the screen.
context of all this work and the kind of proposed meetings that BJ has.
Well, if you folks recall, back in, I want to say, the late July or early August timeframe, I believe all of us received a letter
Yes, we talked about
individually
that.
stating that our, you know, committee had, or I guess our tenure, if I can use that word, was extended for another year. And at that point, we had, I think Nick, you were saying that does not sound right. You were going to check on that or something like that.
Yeah, I did clarify on that, and thank you for bringing it up, Said. So even though we do all the reappointments in June, um, and that's how it's handled, the time frame of the ad hoc committee still stands, right? So our time does end in November.
Okay.
So
So we can ignore that letter essentially.
yeah, essentially. What I need to do though is put it on to discuss with the board between now and then. What a continuation looks like. Do we revise the charge and do reappointment? Like what's the best course of action moving forward? And I think that what we'd be looking for from the committee, I think we meet twice in November, but maybe end of October. Is like essentially a year-end report, right? So an accumulation, and I mean the Q2 report, and what we've done thus far is like the beginnings of that, essentially, right? So here's everything that this committee has learned and found for your consideration, select board, and then from there, so the select board would discuss and decide, what the next steps are.
So I guess more to come in the October, November timeframe.
Yeah, most likely. I know right now, September meetings are all wonky, but I think the first October meeting is probably when we want to start discussing it again.
Do you know
Sounds
what
good.
dates in October?
I could check. I know that our last September meeting is the 26th, if I recall. So 2 weeks from there. So probably October 10th, maybe, if I'm envisioning a calendar. Or no, is that Columbus Day? Hang on, let me pull the calendar. So 26th, not the 3rd, but the 10th is Columbus/Indigenous Peoples Day. So maybe it is the 3rd. Maybe we do back-to-backs there because of the weird. I have to pull up the list of the schedule to know, but I will find that out as well.
The 10th is Columbus Day.
Yeah. Yeah, so either it's the meeting will either be the 3rd or the 17th.
Sounds to me like we need to do the third quarter. The third quarter report to the select board. Will that help with your conversation, Nick?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, absolutely.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Let's open the meeting if there is anyone that wants to participate. Please let us know.
I don't think we have anybody else online right now, so
Great.
be a no.
Okay, our next DEIC meeting is scheduled for the 21st of September at 6.
A quick note: I will have a hard stop at 6:45 that day because of a work-related meeting that occurs late in the day.
So you'll join us 6 to 6:45.
That's right.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Please vote. Say your name.
Hi, Nancy.
Carl, yes.
Sayed Ghani, yes.
Nick Priest, yes.
EJ, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Guys.
Bye.